Stories help us to understand the world around us. They allow us to laugh, they allow us to cry, they give us the ability to feel and provide us with an outlet to heal. Join me as I get to know some of the amazing people behind the stories that we read in order to truly discover the story that has been hidden within each of us. My name is Bre Smith, and this is the Author Push Talk Show. Welcome to the Author Push Talk Show. I am your host, Bre Smith, and today I have a special treat for you. I actually have a Black oral historian, at least that's what I like to think of him as, on the show today. He is going to be talking to us about his company that is called Truth Be Told, and he's going to give us more information on that. Please welcome to the show, Nate Harpe. Thank you so much, Nate, for being here today.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. So can you tell the viewers just a little bit more about yourself?
Okay, so I call myself a history geek. I love history. I've always loved anything that has to do with the past and history. And so, yeah, I think in high school, it was like one of my favorite subjects. Well, as I grew up and kind of matured a little more, I wanted to know more about African-American history. And the more that I found out about it, the more I was, word I guess I would say is, the more I was kind of intrigued why we didn't know about some of these wonderful stories of ours, like why I wasn't taught these things in school. So I've always operated around the fringes of history and enjoying it and liking it. So I live in the DC area. And so when I moved to Washington, DC from Ohio many years ago, I wanted to go and see all the monuments and, know everything about it. And I did that. And then when friends and relatives would come to town, they would always ask me, hey, can you take us around town, and show us around town? And I would. And I never realized that, it was almost like developing a skill set of facilitating and, tour guiding and whatnot. I just figured I live here. I know the town. I'll take you around, show you around. And so what happened almost, I guess, organically was I started to focus on the Black history of Washington, D.C., the African-American stories. And so I guess it was probably 3 years ago, it just kind of light bulb popped on and said, hey, nobody else is doing this. And you have all of these stories, you have all of this material, in Washington, D.C., you can get a tour all day long, any day. But none of the major tour companies are focusing on our story. So I just decided that it was something that, I could do. I wasn't sure that I could do it. And so I just started to kind of, how you start to turn it over in your mind, can I do this? Should I do it? That kind of thing. And third quarter last year, I just decided, okay, we're doing this. Win, lose, or draw. We're just going to do it. So I set up the company. The company is called Truth Be Told. And we started, January 1 this year, and we're off and running.
Amen. I love that. Because you're right. I'm not gonna lie. I know growing up, you told us a little bit about stories. I mean, you hear a little bit about the Harriet Tubmans, the Sojourner Truths, Martin Luther King, but they really don't tell us other powerful stories. That's stuff that you actually either have to research on your own. I mean, in college, of course, I had Pan-African studies, so they taught us a little bit in there. But yeah, I love this. I think this is something major that we do need, because a lot of times, our history is kept with our, it's kept with our ancestors, like our great-great-grandparents. Yes. And a lot of times because of trauma and stuff that happened, they're like, okay, we don't want to talk about that. Yeah, yes. That happened, we ain't gonna talk about that. Like my grandma, she's 90 years old, which is a blessing. But I know I can't go to her, but like, Grandma, can you tell me how it was? During segregation times, when you had to, yes. So she'd be looking at me like, I ain't talking about that, So yeah. I love this right here. I think this is something very powerful. So can you dive a little bit more into your company and just your mission and things like that?
Yes. So Truth Be Told, we started January 1. And so I was, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, make sure that we were, had all of our, paperwork and everything in order, because you want people to take you seriously. So we present like a tour company, and that's fine. But I always say touring is a byproduct of the reason why we exist. Our mission simply is to make sure that African American history is not lost. So our tagline is, we want to make sure that our history is not forgotten, and not forgotten is thus not lost. Because all you really need is 2 generations of not telling your story, and it starts to fade. So starting with the district DMV, District Maryland, Virginia area, I just started to pull out little known stories, and I was wondering what I could do with them. So at the beginning of the year, what I did was I started making short YouTube videos, 15, 20-minute long. Hey, did you know about this? Have you heard about that? Did you ever, were you ever taught about this? And so, I'm developing or adding to a YouTube channel now, all of these videos so people can go back and watch them. That kind of led to engaging with organizations. So what we want to do, my long range vision for Truth Be Told, is that almost like a franchise model, because our stories are in our communities, and the people in the communities know the stories. So what I'm doing in the DMV right now, you could replicate anywhere. So my first foray into that was just to go back to where I was from. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. So I was there maybe a month ago, and figured while I was in town, I would, do the same thing I've been doing in the DMV, which is going around and discovering all these little known stories. And I was appalled by how much Black history in Cleveland I had never heard, right? So I'm currently compiling those stories, and I'll, again, make, short YouTube videos. I try to keep my videos 20 minutes or less, get someone's attention, pique their interest, teach them a little bit, and then, hopefully wet their whistle to come back and learn more. So I'm working on, Cleveland, Ohio now, and then, wherever else, I have some material from Montgomery, Alabama, and some other places. So, for example, today I have, in Truth Be Told, has a tour that we take out to the Eastern Shore of Maryland, where Harriet Tubman was born, her birthplace, the general store where she was injured, and her museum are all out in Church Creek, Maryland. The Eastern Shore hasn't changed very much in 100 years. So with that, I offer a 1-mile hike through the Tuckahoe State Forest, which is not too far from where she grew up, just so people could get an idea of the terrain that she had to traverse her 13 trips back and forth from the Eastern Shore of Maryland north.
So that's actually a part of the Underground Railroad, like the hike almost, or? Yeah,
so since we don't know what routes she took, but we do know that she had to traverse the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So the hike that I have, which is in a place called Atkins Arboretum, it shows you the creeks and the streams, the things that she would have had to navigate.
Wow.
So we have that tour. We have a tour I call Discover Black DC, which is a 1-day tour all around DC, all about the little known things in Washington, DC that people who even live in DC never heard about. Like, for example, people may know or have heard of Freedom Plaza, which is in DC on Pennsylvania Avenue, but people don't know, first of all, Freedom Plaza was named Freedom Plaza in honor of Reverend Dr. King. It used to be named Western Plaza. They renamed it in his honor, and they buried a time capsule under it. In that time capsule is one of his Bibles, one of his robes, and some other artifacts. If people knew that, a lot of the shenanigans at Freedom Plaza probably wouldn't go on, So, it's all of those little known things. So that's a 1-day tour around the District of Columbia. And then the other offering that we have, at least right now, is a 2-hour walking tour of the Shaw neighborhood in DC. Okay. So Shaw is a historically Black neighborhood in DC. In fact, it's the first place where we could live freely in the district. So it's a 2-hour walking tour, and I developed it because, we're coming out of COVID, whatever that is, and people are still a little shy about getting on a bus with people they don't know. So this is all outside in the open. It's about 2 miles. It's an easy 2-hour walk, and it's almost like a softball pitch home run. You walk through the Shaw neighborhood, and you will run into Black history with your eyes closed, right? So that's what we're doing now, and we hope to kind of continue to fan out across the DMV, and eventually maybe across the country with these kinds of things, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, because I can definitely see the vision, because you're right. I feel like there is Black history everywhere. I mean, we you know what I'm saying? We disperse throughout the United States.
Yes.
And even abroad. And so yeah, I believe in this. I can't wait to see what you do with this, because I can really see this almost being in all 50 states. This is crazy. But yeah, I love this. I'm gonna have to tell my husband, because I was just telling him, I was like, listen, I want to get on one of his tours, but I did not know that you had one for the Harriet Tubman. I would love to do that, the terrain, but I also
Yes.
want to do the one in DC, the walking tour. I would love to
Yes.
do that as well. That's, oh God, yeah, I want to. So you're gonna have to tell us more about that.
Right.
How much are your tickets and stuff for that? Like,
Okay. Yeah. So the Shaw Walking Tour, which I have one today at 11, it's $25 a person,
oh,
and I put them in Eventbrite so people can kind of find them and whatnot. It's picking up momentum. So far, honestly, it's been mostly people that I know, friends of mine, but that's fine too, because the best advertisement is word of mouth. So today is actually the first. No, I'm to take that. Today is the second tour where there are people on it that I don't know, which is wonderful. So that means, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, people are discovering it. So it's just $25 a person. I put it out in the Eventbrite, and like I said, it starts at the Metro, it ends at the Metro, so you don't have to worry about where am I going to park or whatever. You can catch the Metro in, and when we finish, you can catch the Metro out. It goes through the upper part of Shaw, so starting at the Shaw Library,
okay.
and we weave our way through the northern part of the Shaw community, which has the home of Dr. Carter G. Woodson and his memorial. It has the YWCA, which is one of the few YWCAs where you can still get a bed. It's actually like a women's shelter. It's named after Phyllis Wheatley. Goes through the YMCA, which is where Thurgood Marshall assembled his team as they strategized for Brown v. Board of Education, right? Goes past the home of Duke Ellington, the White Law Hotel, of course, Black Broadway, which is U Street, and the Howard Theater, the Miller home. And so because we lived in Shaw was our community. So everything was within Shaw, right?
Wow.
And then, of course, we start to fan out and live in other parts of the city as segregation eased and all that. But originally, Shaw, which was called Mid-City until about the 60s, when it was renamed Shaw in honor of Colonel Robert Shaw, who was the commander of the 54th Massachusetts. Shaw was our community. It was all self-contained. It was where we lived. It was where we worked. It was where we worshiped, all of that.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. Listen, I'm thinking, like, do I need to get in on this tour? Can I get in on the tour at 11?
Yes, you can.
Man, yes, this is so powerful. I love it. I love it. So what is one of the best stories that you have learned, even from Cleveland or the DMV or Maryland, wherever? Like,
Yes.
what is like one of the stories that have most intrigued you?
There are so many, but I'll share this one and try to be brief with it.
Mhm.
It more than 200,000 men raised their hand to be a part of the Union Army after the Emancipation Proclamation, and African Americans were able to join the ranks of the Union Army. One of those men was named Garland White. Garland White was from Hanover County, which is near Richmond, Virginia. He was sold on the auction block at 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
to a man named Robert Toombs from Georgia. So imagine that, first and foremost. Mr. Toombs, and I use the word Mr. loosely, was eventually elected to Congress, and he moved to Washington, D.C. with his boy servant. Garland had already tried to escape from Georgia, but was unsuccessful. Now, Representative Toombs moves in a few doors down from a man named William Seward. William Seward at that time was congressman. He was eventually the Secretary of State. He was an abolitionist, and he helped Garland escape from his colleague. Okay, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 meant that nowhere in America was safe for a fugitive slave, but before then, or a fugitive former enslaved person. I try to get away from the word slave because I don't believe we were ever slave. We were ever slaves. We were just enslaved, because slave is a state of mind. So previously, like for example, Harriet Tubman would take her passengers, she called them, from the Eastern Shore of Maryland to Philadelphia, where they would be free. New York, Massachusetts, anywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line. But after the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, nowhere in America was safe for a fugitive escape formerly enslaved person. Because why? Because businessmen did what businessmen do. The slave owning consortium got together and they did what businessmen do when they start losing money. They lobbied Congress and they said, you got to do something about this because we're losing money. Oh, and by the way, your campaign contributions are on our desk, right? So he has to go all the way to Canada. St. Catharines, Canada is where a lot of fugitive slaves landed. He went to Ontario, London, Canada. Okay, all right. He grew up there. Young man, he grew up, he became a minister in the AME church. When Congress decided that they were no longer going to enforce that act of 1850, millions of formerly enslaved persons began to pour back into the United States. He landed in Toledo, Ohio, not too far from where I'm from in Cleveland. All right, he wanted to be in the Union Army. He wanted to be a chaplain in the Union Army. So he started recruiting for the 54th Massachusetts, same regiment that was captured in encapsulated in the movie Glory, right? Okay, he wasn't able to become an officer in that regiment because the chaplain was an officer. So he lobbied the governor of Indiana and asked him to raise a regiment of United States colored troops, and he did, the 28th Infantry. Now, in those days and times, if you weren't white, you were Black, you were colored. So the United States colored troop had Asians and Hispanics serving, right? All right. So he's the chaplain of the 28th Infantry, United States colored troops. He's achieved that part of his dream. The 28th Infantry served valiantly in the Civil War. There's a memorial to them down in Petersburg, Virginia, for their exploits on the battlefield. So the Civil War is coming to a close. The Union Army has approached Richmond and gone around Richmond to Petersburg. Remember, Richmond is another country. Richmond is the capital of the Confederacy, and they have printed their own money, elected their own president, and all that. They're coming around Petersburg to lay siege to Petersburg. That's where Richmond is getting all of its supplies, and when all the rail lines went into Petersburg. When it went south, General Lee went to then president of the Confederacy, Jeff Davis, and said, you need to get out of town, because if you don't, you won't be able to get out of town. The Union Army is coming. It's over. So the then president of the other country, Jeff Davis, and his cabinet, they left Richmond, and the Union Army surrounded Petersburg. They took Richmond. So now Richmond is the capital of this other country, this other slave-wanting country.
Right.
The 28th Infantry and probably 30,000 other United States colored troops marched into Richmond, Virginia, and took the capital of the Confederacy. Garland White was there in that exploit. Now imagine He's marching back in,
Right.
armed to the teeth, with 20,000 of his buds to the same place that he was sold in Richmond.
My God.
So they liberate Richmond. It's like celebrations breaking out everywhere. All these Union troops, there are these things called slave pens, where enslaved persons were be kept until they were sold, until they were moved on, or whatever. Washington D.C. had them. There was slave pen, the most famous one, right on 7th and Independence Avenue, believe it or not, where the FAA building is now, was the William slave pen. Wow. And it was nondescript because they were ashamed that they had slavery in Washington, D.C. So looking at it, you couldn't even tell what it was. But anyway, so the slave pens in Richmond, Virginia were flung open. All of these enslaved persons are now free. So you got formerly enslaved persons in the streets celebrating. All of these United States colored troops, Union Army troops celebrating. Garland was asked to give a speech on Broad Street in Richmond. I'm trying to get in his headspace because this is the same place where he was sold into slavery, or not into slavery. He was born enslaved, but same place where he was sold. Yeah. He gave a speech because his power of oratory was just that good. And we know this because he was a prolific writer. He kept a memoir. He was always writing to some paper, some about some issue. So that's why we know all this. Okay, I'm wrap up. So he gave a speech because he asked him to give a speech. Then the president showed up. Now, so you have the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln. He shows up, and you have all of these people celebrating the rich streets of downtown Richmond. It's a lot more to this, but I'm gonna just summarize it. When the slave pens were opened up, there's a lady named Nancy coming out of one of those slave pens. She's looking for her son. His name is Garland. And she found him. And she hasn't seen him since he was 6 years old. Like, that could be a Hollywood movie script. I don't know why it's not. So, these kinds of stories are like everywhere. And so they were reunited. And like I said, we only know this because he was a prolific writer and he captured all of this in his own hand. And you can find it on the internet, his writings, his letters and whatnot. So that's one of the little known stories that we need to preserve. Yeah.
Yes. Man, listen, somebody to get that to Denzel. He needed to
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, real talk. That is powerful. I love it. That is so good. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Man, this is powerful. Look, y'all, I'm just gonna tell y'all need to get on one of these tours. I'm telling y'all, I'm tempted today to go on a tour myself. But yes, thank you so much, Nate, for coming on today. How can we connect with you? Yeah. So tell the people how to connect with you. And I know you say get tickets on Eventbrite, but you can go ahead and tell them how to do that too.
Right. So our website, which is truth2betold.com, it's how you get everywhere else. That has links to our Facebook and Instagram and our YouTube channel, which is where all our videos are. I think I'm up to maybe 30 videos right now. So if you go to truth2betold.com, you can find us there. You can get my email and phone number, multiple ways to contact us in that way. All the tours that we offer are there. And we also offer like bespoke tours. So for example, just a week or so ago, a friend of mine said, hey, my family's in town, for a couple of days. Can you show us around? And so I said, sure, because so I gave them the Shaw walking tour. That wasn't in Eventbrite, but I just did it because they were there and right. So, we will do literally whatever we can do to help preserve our history, because all you have to do is spark 2 or 3 people and they'll carry it forward. Right. So I would say start with our Facebook page. With our website, which will give you connections to everything else. And I can certainly share that with you so your viewers can see it. And that's the best way to connect with us.
Okay. And is there anybody you'd like to shout out today or anything like that?
Well, yes. So my good friend, Sharonda Dorsey, who kind of hooked us up. She's I don't have to tell you, she's a powerful woman. I count her as one of my mentors. And I'm really grateful for her to, helping us to make a connection. And then just, my heroes who are my parents, right? They are the guiding force for me being whoever, whatever I am today. So, I give them that credit. And so, yeah.
Amen. Well, once again, thank you so much, Nate, for coming on. I would love to bring you back in the future once, everything else has gotten settled. But
Awesome.
definitely would love for you to come back on and tell us some more stories. I love that story. That story was powerful. So
yes, it is. So Garland White, he's buried at Arlington National Cemetery. So it was hard to find him, but there's a lot of people out there. But once I I just wanted to find his gravesite since it was so close. But yeah, there's so many stories out there like that.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you guys so much for watching us today. If you would like to come on the Author Push Talk Show, I would love to have you. Please connect with me at bresmithglobal.com, or you can go and check me out on my email, bresmithglobal@gmail.com. Feel free to find me on Instagram. I am Bre Smith Official, or you can add me on Facebook at Bre Smith. Once again, thank you guys so much. And until next time, see you guys later.
Bye. Thank you so much for having us.
Praise the Lord. My name is Dr. Roosevelt Robinson Jr., and I just self-published a book entitled God's Favor, My Wife. This book was prophesied by my apostle many years ago that said, I will write this book and it will bless many. I want you to go pick you up a copy. This book will inspire you, encourage you, and bless your soul. If you're seeking for salvation, if you're seeking for a closer walk with God, if you're looking for ideas for your youth ministry, if you're looking for that husband or searching for that husband or wife that God has promised you or that you desire, this book will inspire you, encourage you, and help you on your journey with God. Go to barnesandnoble.com, that's bn.com or amazon.com, and pick you up a copy. I guarantee it will bless you. I have shared my experience and my testimony of how I met my wife and we got married, and how I have gained favor down through the years being married to my wife. Be blessed.